Hey guys, it's Mia here, and welcome back once again to another bookish review. Now, I finally finished Twilight's second book, New Moon, and let me just say, so far, this is probably the best one, in my opinion, in the whole Twilight series, but let me just tell you that this book does such a good job of showing what a terrible person Bella is. Now, before you get all up in arms and saying, oh, she's not a bad person, let me explain why I think she is such a bad person. Now, let's start with the whole Edward scenario. I did realize this when I was reading Twilight and watching the Twilight movie, but I never brought it up in my Twilight review, either the movie or the books. But Edward is 109 years old, and Bella is 17. And this is the reason that Twilight started to get so much flack, because when people grew up and they got out of that whole, oh my gosh, we could love a werewolf or a vampire phase, they realized how horrible their relationship was. But that is one of the reasons that the book did get so much hate, was because Edward is 109 and Bella is 17. That is way past pedophilia. That is just insane. Anyhow, aside from that, Edward and Bella were said to be together for 6 months, which is half a year. And when Edward says, I'm leaving you, Bella, I'm not good for you, and I don't want you anymore, her whole world stops. Like, she abandons her friends for months. She shuts completely down. She, doesn't talk to her dad, even though she barely talked to him before. She just shuts down. And they were together for 6 freaking months, and she's acting like they were lifelong lovers who've been together 80 years and one of them just died. That'd be different. If you were with someone for 80 years and your loved one died, I could see that being an intense amount of pain for you. But being together for 6 freaking months, not even a full year, 6 months, and she's acting like her world just imploded. It's pathetic. And it goes past the point of love and goes into obsession. I think I did bring up the fact that the love Bella feels for Edward borders on an unhealthy obsession. Like, she is a stalkerly obsessed person with Edward. And that is not okay. That's not romantic. That's not okay. It's not okay for your world to stop just because a guy dumps you. Or guys, if a girl dumps you. It's not okay for your world to just stop. Especially when you've been with them for just 6 months. You barely know them at that point. You can hardly say you love someone at that point. It's 6 months. And she's over here acting like her freaking entire family just died. Now, I do understand that because of Edward, Bella got a glimpse into a life that she didn't know existed. She didn't know about vampires being a real thing until she got with Edward. And I get that because of the dangers she faced because of Edward, she feels very vulnerable without him there. After all, she's a human living in a world of vampires. So I get where that part comes from. Like, she feels very vulnerable without him because she is a fragile human that is now in the crosshairs of all these different vampires. But other than that, her unhealthy obsession with Edward just is way too far. And also the fact that he is 109 and she is 17 is super not okay. I get that technically he is 17, But him being technically 17, and that being how old he was when he was changed, should not matter. He is 109. This is not okay. So there's the obsession with Edward, and I'm not even calling it love. It is an obsession that not feeling like a person just because of Edward leaving her, even though she was only with him for 6 months. And then on top of that, there is the fact that she is a user, not an abuser, a user. The only reason she starts hanging out with Jacob is because she doesn't have Edward anymore. And I honestly think that for whatever reason, she is drawn to supernatural beings because she goes to Jacob instead of her other friends. And I get that they were friends from childhood, but I don't think they really earned that connection because we didn't see a lot of that connection. Now, this is where I take the most issue with Bella, because I've been used by a ton of people, so I know how it feels. And poor Jacob over here, not only, like he said, is he better for Bella, because A, he's alive, B, he's not a pedophile, C, he won't end her life and make her into a freaking soulless bloodsucker. But still, he's a werewolf. There comes with danger. And again, let's pretend Scott from Teen Wolf is not a thing, because he'd be my wolf in a heartbeat if he were. But just, I feel so bad for Jacob, because all he's ever been through this entire series so far is used by Bella. He was used in the beginning to get information on the Cullens. He was used now to help fill the void that Edward left behind after 6 months of being together. And on top of her using Jake like she does, which I hate her for, she just flat out abandons all of her friends and her parents. She completely shuts them out, doesn't talk to them for 4 months, which is almost as long as they were together in the first place, and then acts like everything should be okay and they should be ready to hang out with her at a moment's notice. Like, no, you abandoned us for 4 months, don't say a darn word, and then you're over here acting like we should drop our entire lives to hang out with you. Who do you think you are? Because no, you don't get to abandon your friends for 4 months and then come in and act like you never left. That's not okay. And then, I hate this too. She calls her dad and her mom Charlie and Renee behind their back. And sometimes even calling Charlie to his face. And I'm like, how disrespectful are you to your parents? Like, I think calling your parents by their names, even behind their backs, let alone poor Charlie calling his name to his face, is such disrespect to your parents. I mean, maybe that's just me, but the whole calling your parents mom and dad, that's who they are. They gave birth to you. They made you. They stopped their entire lives to raise you into the person you are. You would literally be nothing without them, and you can't even call them your mom and dad. The bond of mom, dad, and child should be one of the most sacred kept things ever. And like, Bella can't even give her parents enough respect to call them her mom and dad behind their back. I would feel horrible calling my mom her name behind her back. I would feel like a terrible daughter, but she does it all the time. And I'm like, Bella, what are you doing? You are a terrible person. And on top of that, here again comes her obsessiveness. She is a freaking pushy stalker. Because when not only is she using Jacob, but she's leading him on, she shuts down his advances a couple of times, but other times she kind of encourages it. Like she's trying to dangle the hope of a relationship in front of his face. And then when he starts to feel like maybe there's something there, she pulls back. But then the second he's like, I need space, she goes, no, I love you, I do. That's not okay. So she's using and leading him on. And on top of that, she's a freaking pushy stalker. Like, what is her issue? I do not understand. Like, especially when Jacob starts going through the changes of being a wolf. And he is not sure how to control himself. And he's scared that if Bella gets too close, he will kill her. And honestly, he can't explain what's going on because that's against the tribal law or the pack law to tell someone that werewolves exist. Much like it's against the vampire law to tell humans about vampires. But Bella doesn't take, I don't want to see you anymore for an answer. She is selfish. She is so fixated on making herself feel better that she doesn't care at all what Jacob wants. She goes, you make me feel better, so I'm going to be a pest to you against your wishes. She constantly calls him. She shows up at his house against his permission. It's just all bad. If someone says, I don't want to see you and I don't want to talk, and they don't answer their phone, you don't constantly show up at their house and berate them to talk to you. That is not okay. And it continues like this. Edward finds out that Bella tried to kill herself by jumping off a cliff, even though she was just cliff jumping, stupidly, not paying attention to the weather. She drops everything with poor Charlie, his best friend having a heart attack. She just completely ditches him because Edward is in trouble. I get that Edward's in trouble, but so is your dad. And I think your dad should be priority over a guy that you've known for 6 months. And I get it, okay? I get there's a lot of Romeo and Juliet through this book. But you know, I think Romeo and Juliet is a terrible story. And I don't think that it should be read in schools because it glorifies horrible relationships and it glorifies suicides. I know that Shakespeare said it's not a romance, it's a tragedy, but it goes far beyond being tragic. I mean, at least Bella and Edward knew each other for 6 months. Romeo and Juliet knew each other for a day, and they literally committed suicide because they couldn't be together. And that's okay to read to kids in school. I don't think that Romeo and Juliet should be copied at all. It's not romantic. It's not a good relationship to want to have. And it's not a good thing to show in schools because it glorifies suicide. And none of those things are okay. So, on top of me not liking Bella, the Romeo and Juliet constant tie-ins were starting to tick me off. Now, all of that being said, so far this is one of my favorite books in the series. We're gonna see here in like a couple of minutes if the movie is as good as the book. But I don't know. I hate Bella. I absolutely hate her. She is just selfish. Oh, I forgot to mention, she's also hypocritical. And why is she hypocritical? Because she wants to be a vampire, right? She wants to be a monster, because let's not kid ourselves. They are monsters. Whether they drink bunny blood or human blood. They are monsters. They could kill someone with a snap of their finger. And all through the book, Bella's like, I want to be one of you, change me, I just want to be a vampire, I want to be with you forever. But then Jacob tells him, well, hints to her that he's a werewolf, and she freaking goes off on him. She's like, well, can't you stop being a werewolf? You're a murderer, you're a killer. I don't want to be friends with someone who is a murderer. She was openly accusing him of being a killer with A, no proof, and B, even though Edward actively admitted to her that he killed many people, whether they were murderers or not, he killed people. But Edward doing it is okay. Jacob doing it with no proof that he even killed someone is terrible. She doesn't want to be friends with that. How fucking hypocritical can you be? Like, Edward literally told you he killed so many people, but you're over here accusing Jacob of being a murderer and a monster with no proof. And then on top of that, the scene where they're in the Volturi and she walks past the human lady that's the receptionist for the Volturi, which are the vampire royalty. She goes, oh, how can she want to be one of those monsters? Why does she want to be one of them? And I'm like, Bella, you have literally been begging to be one of those monsters the entire book. Shut your hypocritical mouth. Like, she bugs me to no end. She is a terrible person. Utterly selfish, obsessively not in her right mind. She's obsessive, she's a stalker, she's hypocritical, she's just a terrible person. And she's manipulated. She's manipulative, obsessive, a stalker, hypocritical. And I say she's manipulative because the way she was playing with Jacob's emotions the whole time. And I know she shut down the whole I don't want to be in a relationship, but she also said things that would make Jake think otherwise. She said and did things that would make Jacob think there could be more, even though she knew there wouldn't be. She's a terrible person, and no one should aspire to be her. And no one should want Edward and Bella's relationship, because I'm starting to see why this book gets so much hate, because oh my goodness. Now, all that kind of summed up the reasons why I didn't like the book, but I also think that it is a much better told story, and I liked the whole thing with the werewolves and with Jake, because I think Jacob is a sweet kid, and honestly, he deserves much better than Bella, but I don't know. But I'm going to start the movie here, and as soon as I stop this video, and this will probably be up Friday, and then I will start Eclipse, which is a hefty book, probably tomorrow or the day after. So I don't honestly know when I'll get the review for this done. Alright, I kind of got really ranty in this video, but now you know my opinions on Bella and the New Moon book. And as always, I hope to see you guys next time. Bye, guys.